How's everybody doing tonight? It is 9 o'clock Eastern time. No pre-show tonight. Um, Little different circumstances. Of course, many of you who have been on uh, Facebook today know that I am not in Florida. Hello, Andrea and Stephanie. How are you two doing tonight? Angela, what's going on, Angela? Good to see you. Um, Maybe I'll wait to get some more people in here before I begin to explain everything that's gone on in the last probably 30 hours. Hello, Charlie. I'm doing good. Hello, Stephanie. Dorothy, wave to you. I see you, Dorothy. Melinda, Christina. Melinda, I'm going to answer your question about the case that haunts me. It's a good question. I think I've gotten it before, but it's been a while, so I'll happy to go over it again. Um, I'm going to pick out an unfound case for that, if you don't mind. Um, I'm doing good. I was just outside bringing a lot of my things into the my mom and dad's place up here in Renfrew, Pennsylvania. It is cold and windy out. I'm here to tell you. And Kelly, how are you doing? Um, it's Angela. How's the snow? How is it up there in PA? It's cold. It's very unseasonably cold and windy for March. They definitely had some snow come in while I was driving up here yesterday, and I came up here in January of 2017 to visit my parents, and it's exactly like that. It really does feel like it's January and not March. Kelly, you're heading to work. Well, be safe out there. I don't know how busy you're going to be tonight. It's kind of miserable out there. I was just out there about a half hour ago. It's still snowing in New Jersey, Dorothy. Can't imagine it. Just can't imagine it at all. Um, it was half of my trip driving up here was fine, and then the other half was nothing but snow and slush and everything else. So there you go. But we have a few people in here. I'll just go into this now. I'm up here in Pennsylvania seeing my parents. It was quite unexpected, but my biological mother, whose name is Suzanne, she died yesterday. She was 88 years old. She had been diagnosed with cancer about a year ago. Hello, Vicky. And she seemed to be doing okay. And then what happened was my sister, whose name is Diane, she went over to see her a few weeks ago. My biological mother Suzanne, she'd lived by herself most of her life since she got divorced back in the 1970s, and she was living by herself until just a couple weeks ago. Well, my sister went over to see her, and she got a bad feeling about everything, so she had Suzanne go live with her in Ohio, and things took a turn for the worse within the last week. I guess, of course, I was not there. Of course, my sister was taking care of her, and then my brother Brian, who I've talked about before, he lives close to me down in Florida. He drove up on, I think it was Sunday, and by the time that he got here, Suzanne raised him. My parents were Ed and Loretta Densel, but my brothers and my sister, this is their mother. A long story, and he got to see his mother, and I don't think that I think she barely even recognized him. I'm wondering if maybe she had some sort of small stroke or something after she went over to my sister's, because I don't know if cancer would necessarily cause that. And then, of course, she was on a lot of pain medication and everything because of the cancer. And they didn't think it was going to be too long. Things happened. I'm no doctor, so things happened very quickly. I mean, it was just a couple weeks ago that she was living on her own and everything, and now she's not with us anymore. So I got the word yesterday. I'm going to say it was around, my brother Michael texted me. I'm going to guess it was around 4:30 or something like that. And that's when I decided I was just going to pack up everything and drive directly up here. And I think, I'm thinking the arrangements, the burial and funeral, everything's going to happen on Friday, I think. So I jumped in the car at about 6:30 Eastern time yesterday evening, and I drove up here right through the night. I ended up taking a snooze somewhere in North Carolina for about 2.5 hours in my car, and then drove the rest of the way. I just want to welcome some other people in here. Angie, good to see you. Andrea, yeah, it was Andrea. It's my biological mother. My mother's fine. She's sitting right out there in the family room. My mom and dad are fine. But this is the woman who birthed me, and then she gave me up for adoption when I was born. And then I didn't meet her and the rest of my biological family until 1994. So, but my mom and dad are fine. They're doing fine, and I'm staying with them. They were the ones who adopted me a month after I was born. Kat, hi, hey from the UK, keep up the good work. Kat, I'm going to do that. Thank you very much. Michelle, good to see you tonight. Carly, good to see you. Michelle, thank you. Sorry to hear this. Thank you. Thank you. Angie, hi, I had prayers to you and your family. I appreciate it. Thank you. I will pass that along. So I drove up through the night, ended up getting here at about 1:30 today, totally wiped out. And I've had about 4 hours of sleep since 4 o'clock. Like in the last, what would it be, 30 some hours, I've had 4 hours of sleep. So I feel a little bit out of it, and I'll probably be going to bed after the show's done. But I wanted to do the show. I love talking to all of you. Some of you already know what was going on, and I knew it was going to be weird if I didn't explain why I was up here already, because I think most of you know that I live in Florida. You may know that I grew up here in Pennsylvania. I haven't lived here for a long time, but I grew up here. But I think most of you know that I live in Florida now, and you're probably wondering, well, what's he doing in Pennsylvania? Well, this is what I'm doing. So I'm staying with my parents. Actually, I'm sitting on the bed that they finally got for me from when I come up here. I used to have to sleep on the couch for a few years, but they finally got a bed. So I'm sitting on the bed that they got me. It's very comfortable. I'm leaning up against the wall here. You can see that I'm wearing one of my Unfound t-shirts. This is one of the first year cases t-shirts that I brought with me. Many of you seen that many of the guests have started to get their shirts. They're very excited about them, and they've been buying some as well, which I deeply appreciate. But all the proceeds that are made from the selling of the shirts go right back into providing more guests with more shirts, and just keep turning it over. Michelle says Steeler Nation. Yes, Michelle, I'm up here in Steeler Nation. That's right. And Jennifer, thank you for joining tonight. Jennifer's kind of new to the program. I'm going to be talking to her soon about a case. Jennifer, I'm looking forward to that. Brian, hello from Newada, Oklahoma. Enjoy the podcast. My wife went to school with Ashley Freeman, and Laura Bible is what got me listening, and I've listened to every episode since. Sorry for your loss. Brian, that's very kind. Thank you. And thank you for finding Unfound. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. Angie, the shirts are great. Thank you. And Gina's, Gina's your sister. Yes, Jennifer. Great. And I look forward to talking tomorrow evening, as a matter of fact. So that's what's going on. And I'm going to be up here probably for at least a week. I've made the joke that I have to get back by April 1st because my landlord is going to need her rent check. So I'll be up here for at least a week, and then I'll drive back down. I'm thinking that what's going to happen with the burial and everything is going to happen maybe Friday or Saturday, and then I'll stick around for a week. The show's we're going to have a program on Friday. We're going to already have the interview conducted for next Friday's program, so we're not going to be missing every Fridays. And I brought my equipment with me, so it's going to continue to happen. But these things happen. Allison, welcome tonight. Jill, good to see you. Jennifer, how do you get a shirt, Jennifer? There's a link. If you can find the link, it's in the discussion group. If you can find it, or if maybe somebody wants to post it in there, maybe I could type it out. Here we go. Let me see if I can do this off the top of my head. There's the link to the shirts right there. There you go, Jennifer, if you'd like to take a look at them. Thank you. So that's what's going on. And like I said, I pretty much have some other interviews lined up, and the show's going to happen as it normally does. As I'd like to tell people, we haven't missed a Friday on Unfound since October 2016, since the beginning. So I'd like to keep that streak up, and I have the equipment to do so. I have the time to do so, so that's going to happen. And the cases are what's most important. Andrea, is the new computer making it easy to work? Yes, I'm going to be working. It's convenient that yeah, I got that right at the right time. Yes, in fact, I will be working on Friday's episode tomorrow. I would have liked to have worked on it today, but I was just too wiped out. But yes, I'm going to be using the new laptop. Like I used it for last week's episode, I'm going to use it for this week's episode too, of course, because I have to. So yes, I am. That's right. Anything else regarding anything else that's going on? Let me think. We already talked about the t-shirts. I typed it up there. Jennifer, you have the link now there. I think everybody knows about the t-shirts by now. I appreciate all of the guests who've taken pictures of themselves and posted their pictures in the group and elsewhere. That certainly helps spread the word about what Unfound is trying to do with the shirts, and spreading the word about these cases. And I feel very fortunate then that other people were seeing the shirts and then going and taking an interest in them. That means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to all of the families, their loved ones who are on these shirts. And I also appreciate that all of the guests and their families have been so supportive of what I'm doing. I really appreciate that. It's really good. And what makes it also possible is Patreon and PayPal, something I talked about, of course, last week. That's one of the other things that makes that all possible, from the donations, the contributions, the support that so many of you, the listeners who aren't connected to these cases in any way except you listen to Unfound, your generosity has certainly made that happen as well. I can't thank you enough. And I think that as I stated on last Friday's episode, I'm not taking any vacations to Tahiti with these PayPal and Patreon contributions. It's exactly the opposite. And I know volumes 1 and 2, as far as the business stuff goes, are around here. My mother has both of the hardback copies, but I did not get them before this video started. But all of you know, and I'm working on volume 3. Of course, being up here is going to put that, delay that at least a little bit. But I've been working on that, and the transcribers are at work. In fact, I know Stephanie's in here. She's done some nice work for me on this upcoming volume 3. And I'm still waiting for another couple transcriptions to be finished, and then I'll be able to complete volume 3, and I'm really looking forward to that. And Andrea, it has been great to see the families post the shirts. It really is. It was just, in fact, I have to tell you, right before I came on here, one of Unfound's longtime listeners asked me, is there any way to copyright those shirts? And I said, I don't think so. I know, of course, the logo is copyrighted, but you can't copyright the shirts. Of course, I don't own the pictures. Those are the family's pictures. The information is public knowledge. You can't copyright the shirts, unfortunately. It was just an idea that I came up with. I thought it would be something that's good to do. I think it can help them. I think it can help the program. I think it's a lot of things put together. Another way to raise awareness about these cases. And I made the decision from the beginning that if Unfound is going to be selling anything, it had to do something with the cases that we've covered. It always has to do something with the cases we cover. We just don't sell merchandise to sell merchandise, is what I'm saying. Stephanie says, if 25 people post a pic wearing your shirt, can we get a bonus episode? Boy, Stephanie, you are greedy. Wow, you are greedy. You got all of you got 2 episodes for Christmas. That was my Christmas gift. That I haven't missed an episode. I know you're just joking around, Stephanie. I know you're just joking. I know. Yeah, I'm just happy that I've never missed a Friday since October 2016. Nothing amazes me more than that. I mean, really, that really amazes me. And and it's just not all me. I mean, I'm just one. Of course, all of you know about Emily, who helps me behind the scenes. You know about some of these other people. You know about Mary Lyle, that has introduced me to guests that have come on the show. You know about, of course, Anthony with his blog, Crime Blogger. His Crime Blogger blog, who has been on the program a couple times with some cases he's covered. There's a lot of people who behind the scenes, or people who have made it possible for Unfound to keep up the streak of never missing a Friday. So I would love to, there's no doubt that I would love to do a bonus episode. If I could do more episodes, I would. There's no doubt about it. I just think that we never want to rush anything at Unfound. We do the case when we're ready. But Stephanie, if everybody wants to post 25, post a picture of a shirt, I'm not going to stop them. I just can't guarantee any bonus episode. Am I doing enough, Stephanie? I think that I'm doing a lot, maybe not enough. When we start solving some of these cases, is when I think that probably I'll start thinking maybe we are doing enough. But we haven't solved any yet, but we're going to keep working toward that. Dee almost forgot it was Wednesday night. Well, you're here now, DVD. That's what's most important. I am doing. No, I said you are doing enough, Stephanie. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I was glad to hear that you're recovering from your car. Your car wreck from must be like 3 weeks ago now, right? I appreciate that. Thanks for keeping me updated on that. Shelly, welcome tonight, and Shaney, welcome tonight. Good to see all of you. Who asked me this question? Let's see here. Let me take a look at this for a moment. One moment here. Let me see. Melinda had asked me a question before the and Mike, good to see you tonight too. You thought it was on Tuesdays. There's Mike. Good to see you tonight. I told you Wednesdays. Melissa, before we got started, had asked me, what is the case that still haunts me? And I think it's a question that's been asked before, but I don't mind going over it again. It's been a while. And I will keep this to Melinda, I should say, not Melissa. Melinda asked me this question. Which one of Unfound's cases continues to haunt me? Obviously, they're all haunting in their own way. It just doesn't seem like people, should be able to disappear in this day and age with all the people on the earth and all the video cameras and tracking and everything else. Probably the case that haunts me the most is Jason Jor Kowski, because of all of the, people who vanished, his vanishing is the most perplexing. It's the most perplexing to me, because it is a case unlike a lot of the others in that there's no drugs involved. Of course, there's no no relationship issue with him that we've ever heard of anyway, and his mother Kelly never said anything about, and I don't believe I don't think that was the case. He never talked about any just walking to go to work and just disappeared. There was no alcohol involved. There wasn't anything like that. Of course, there was no body of water near there or anything. That's the case that Melinda continues to haunt me. I've expressed, and I think that if you've gotten volume 1, if you've read it, and my observations about that case, I'm pretty convinced that he was picked up by somebody he knew. I have no proof of that. Just a suspicion, what I think I've learned about missing persons cases over the last year and a half. I think it was an older guy. I think that it might have been some sort of sexual predator who might have known Jason, had been grooming him, and then saw him walking that day and decided that day was the day that he was going to try to take advantage of Jason. I have no proof of that. It's just a suspicion. I don't believe that Jason ran away or anything. He did not fit the demographic for that. I don't think that it was like a bunch of kids who drove by, picked him up. Kids can't keep, if it was a bunch of high school kids, or they can't keep their mouths shut. I think that this was perpetrated by one person, of course, being a male who wanted to take advantage of Jason and had known Jason. That's what I think. Who that is, I have no idea. But it still haunts me because, in contrast, maybe we can draw the contrast to another case, like Shane Fell, being that I just was talking to his mother recently. There's a case where, he wrecked, and you at least have the possibility, maybe he was drunk, he went up over that levee, went into the water for whatever reason. If that's what happened, it's tragic. We just don't know what happened. But you can start to build up some different suspicions, given what we know. With Jason's case, it's just nothing. You just have nothing. And, you have to make a lot of logical leaps to get to any sort of conclusions. And that's what haunts me about Jason Jor Kowski. Surely proves that anybody can disappear at any time. Surely does that. Shelly, thank you for the kind words. Anne, with the thumbs up, thank you. Yeah, no evidence. Yeah, Shaney says his craziest case, no evidence. You're right, Shaney. Absolutely right. Jennifer, people do not ghost. You're just not here one minute and vanish the next and gone without a trace. Jennifer, there's no doubt that there's some sort of piece of information regarding Jason Jor Kowski's disappearance out there somewhere. We just don't know who has that piece of information. There's information somewhere. We just don't know where to find it. And that's what I mean where, you don't even know where to start. Where do you even begin to look for that piece of information? Could be anywhere in the world. Could be anywhere. So Melinda asked me that question. I thank her for the question. And as much as I care about all these cases, I want all of them solved. That's just the one that comes to my mind off the top of my head. Every case that Unfound is covered, to me, has its own peculiarities and distinct characteristics and things that make it, something that sticks in my mind for all the cases stick in my mind. But I think Jason's is one because you just have no suspects. In a lot of the cases we cover, maybe we have 2 or 3 suspects. And in fact, some of them we only have 1 suspect. Just can't prove anything. And Jason's, you have none. You just have none. 0 theories. So that have any sort of basis in fact. 0. So as long as that's the case, those are the kinds of cases that probably catch my eye the most. Brian asked, do families keep you updated with any updates of the case you cover? Didn't know how that works out at the interviews. Brian, that's a great question. I don't think, that's funny. I don't think that I've ever got that question before. Do families keep me updated with any updates? Many of them do. I'm not going to name out any names or anything like that because usually a lot of those updates are confidential, just things going behind the scenes. But they do. They do keep me updated. It just depends. There are, Brian, you should understand, that Some of the guests on the program I talked to quite a bit. Like Mary Lyle, talked to her quite a bit. Joyce Rivatuzzo, talked to her quite a bit. And some of the guests that are maybe watching, they know how much that we correspond back and forth. And then there are other guests who I may not hear from for a long time. But they do. They try to keep me updated if anything's going on. Alisa Kassoon, of course, her brother Chip Campbell disappeared. I talked to her quite a bit. She keeps me updated. But those are things that I really don't like to talk about, and what actually is going on unless the families give me permission. But yeah, they do. And I appreciate that. And I think that's the kind of relationship I have with my guests, that they know that they can come to me to update me, and they know that it's private. And they know that I will keep that under wraps until something happens, and then I'll tell all of you about it. But most of the time, since all these cases are unsolved, just have to keep a lid on it for now. But they do keep me updated once in a while. And sometimes they keep me updated because I've given them a suggestion, and then actually that suggestion bears fruit. They go to the police and ask this, and then something else happens. And of course, I like when that happens as well. Jennifer, where did Jason disappear from? He disappeared from Omaha, Nebraska in 2001, June 2001, Jennifer. So it'll be 17 years this year. Brian, I would like to think that I do end up friends with all my guests. Like I said, I have to admit there are a couple guests who were on the program, and they've been a little tough to reach since. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to tell you who those people are. But I can tell you the rest of the guests, when I email them or when I call them, I text them, or I see them on the page or anything, that we have great conversations. Just depends on the person. It really does. And I think that the reason we continue to be like that is because from the first time that we talk, they know that I'm an honest guy, and I keep things close to the vest, and they know that the interviews that they did with me came out exactly the way I promised. Because none of my guests, maybe it happened once, but none of my guests get to hear how the program is going to be until it comes out. And in every case, I think I followed through with my promise that the facts are going to be presented in an honest way. There's going to be no, drama to it. There's not going to be anything but presenting the facts. The interview is going to play exactly the way that it was conducted. No taking things out of context. They know that I keep my word when I interview them. And I think that goes a long way toward building that relationship, because when they talk to me, that's just the beginning of our relationship. Because like I said, a year and a half later, I'm still talking to Mary Lyle, who was like my first guest ever on the program. In fact, I just talked to her last week. And I think it's because I follow through with what I promised to the guests. I think so. Mike, yeah, I hear you. Yes. So great question, Brian. I never got that question before. So thank you. That's very insightful, very inquisitive question. We didn't do any news last week. I got so many questions before the episode last week that we didn't happen to touch upon any news. But if I could for just a moment, we didn't get to talk about this Disney worker who disappeared in 2015. And his name was Michael Shaver, over in Orlando. And he was just reported missing recently. And then what did they find? They found him buried in the backyard of his home where his wife was still living there. His wife immediately asked for a lawyer. And you just have to wonder, how does this kind of stuff happen? That it takes 2.5 years at least before somebody, a friend or something, starts wondering, hey, what happened to Michael? This is, it's one of those things. You wonder why people go missing for such a long time. And it's crazy. Yeah, Shaney, that's right. It's crazy. It is crazy, Shaney. I agree. It's crazy. I would like to think that if I had a regular job and was working with people and somebody disappeared, that eventually I'd start wondering, what happened? Well, he was married. Well, his wife doesn't come around, and, I never see her with him anymore. And what happened? It doesn't seem like any of that happened, to the point where he was buried in the backyard. Here's what I think I know. I'm pretty sure that his wife knew he was buried back there, and I'm pretty sure she didn't do it herself. So there's that. Now, Michael did have a domestic incident against him. There was a gun involved, but I guess he said that she came at him with the gun, but I think he was the one that got charged with a domestic incident. So maybe she was getting some revenge on him. I don't know. But it's just amazing that we would think that when people disappear, that people would raise those yellow flags at least very quickly. And obviously not. Obviously not in Michael Shaver's case. Did no one care? Did she lie and say he ran off? Shaney, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I know that case was on NamUs. It's on make a good site, charlieproject.org. Doesn't say anything like that. So I don't know. I don't know what she told people. I don't know what she was telling her neighbors or anything else. I don't know if that's ever came out. I don't know. A lot of people don't pay attention to who they work with, especially a place a lot of workplaces go. They quit and they were fired. Jill, I guess it's possible. I'm just, maybe I'm just overestimating people. Maybe. But then you start thinking about friends. You start thinking about family members and things. And once again, it's not that he was reported missing in 2015 and they've been looking for him all this time. He was only reported missing recently. So I don't know. I don't know. This is one of those cases, as I've explained before and others, where I hope we do find out all the particulars, because I think it would help us learn things about missing persons cases that we can apply to other cases. You've heard me say that before. This is certainly one that I think would go along those lines, that maybe you start talking to some of his family members and his friends, and why did you wait this long? What did you think was going on? So I don't know, but it's a bizarre story. It's a very bizarre one, and I'm going to try to keep up on that. I think that there's probably going to be some murder charges at some point. I'm thinking, I'm guessing. Who was it? Let me see here for a second. Just a moment, please. It was, let me see if I can find her. Rosemary Ann had asked me a question before the program started. She had asked me if I'm working on any Virginia cases. To my knowledge, my memory, I've only covered one Virginia case, and that was James Walker. And of course, his son Bobby. I don't know if he's in here tonight, but Bobby was the guest on that episode, and sometimes he's here watching the Facebook Live show. That's the only Virginia disappearance I think I've covered. As far as I know, I don't have any Virginia cases. If you're out there watching tonight, Rosemary, I don't have any Virginia cases, I don't think, lined up. I'll take any disappearances from anywhere, but no from Virginia. This one this Friday that we're going to get to in a second is from Missouri. So we're going back to Missouri, just like Teresa Butler's case. And then next Friday's is going to be from Ohio. So I don't believe that we have any Virginia ones coming up. I think I'm going to have one from Wyoming coming up. I think I'm going to have one from Pennsylvania coming up, I think. Just some of the ones I'm working on right now. Jill, what population do you believe is the highest among the missing? Men or men or women? I'm pretty sure that there are more men than women missing, at least in the United States, Jill. That I don't know what other countries are. I think it's more men than women. And age, I don't know about that. I just don't. I'm going to guess that disappearances skew younger. So I'm going to guess that it's young men between the ages of 18 and 30, probably is a significant group. The fact is that even though there are more women in the United States and on the earth, men are more likely to commit suicide and have addictions and get into all crazy things and everything. And be, just doing stupid stuff, frankly, men are more likely to do that. I think that lends to more disappearances for men than women. I've never really totaled it out, though, but that's my suspicion. Becca says, great job on last Friday's episode. Becca, thank you. I thought Fran was a great interview. She's going to be doing, I think you're going to be hearing a lot from Fran in the future, frankly, about what she's going to be doing. It's been a pleasure to get to know her. Jennifer, females at 10 to 20, males go missing young. Also, human trafficking is a major sport. It can be, Jennifer, sure. Brian says, it's really cool to put a face to the voice I hear through my headphones. You interact with the listeners on a personal level. Really make sure you're playing over the top. Oh, Brian, you're too nice. I appreciate that. A lot of people like Dorothy you see above you, and a lot of these people, they've been tuning in since last October. This is my favorite time of the week. I mean that. When I can take questions from the listeners and get to know them, and just interact with them and everything. This is my favorite time of the week. 9:00 Eastern time on Wednesdays. As much as I love covering the episodes and I love interviewing the guests, and when the program comes out on Fridays, I love, I don't just, as I've been, once again, a lot of these people have been from, if you see Stephanie on here and Andrea on here, people who have been here since the beginning of, when Unfound started, Brian, they know that this is not a situation where, this isn't like a rock concert or anything where I'm the star and you're the audience or anything. That's not the way I look at this. Is all. I think we're all in this together, trying to figure this stuff out, and I'm just the guy who happens to have the microphone, and I mean that. I absolutely mean that. And so anytime that I can interact with all of the people who I think are just like myself, that's why I do the program. And I'm glad that the technology and everything allows me to do that. So, and it's also one of the reasons that, Brian, that, I know a lot of true crime podcasts are based on theories. That the host will go through theories and everything. That's their show. They can do that. I on the other hand, take the attitude that I'm just going to go out. I'm going to try to get as much information I can for all of you. I'm going to do the interview. I'm going to ask the questions that I think that you would ask if you could. And then sometimes you do get to ask them because a lot of those guests end up in the group and you can talk to them. I'm just going to ask the questions that all of you would. And then, you all have brilliant minds. You can make decisions for yourselves. You're going to hear the facts, and you're going to use your knowledge and your intelligence and your experience to come up with your own, ideas. And I think that's more democratic. I think that opens itself to thinking outside the box, new theories, new angles and things, instead of me, you don't need me to think for you. Surely not. So I just ask questions. I organize, I find people, I get to know them. I love getting to know them. I love talking to them. I ask them questions, and I just try to organize the interview and make sure it comes off in the proper context. That's all I do. Dorothy, car accidents, same age men. Yeah, men are more likely to get car accidents. That's why our car insurance is higher. Mike, I'm new to your program, as you know, but have found you've been an excellent resource to me in the case I'm looking at. Mike, thank you. I appreciate that. Dorothy, there a new platform for podcasting coming out soon, more adaptable and interactive. Maybe, Dorothy. I can't tell you. I'm not a big tech guru. That's very possible, though. Very possible. Let me see if I've gotten all the questions here, and I want to talk a little bit about this bombing that was going on in Austin. Of course, the guy's been caught, so maybe I'm a little behind the times here. Let me see if I got everything here. Any cases from Virginia, haunting, that we did that. Angela asked me, okay, Angela, I can see your question right here. This is a good one. I know you're in the group now. You have ever encountered family or friends fighting about when and where, why somebody went missing, as in hostile to each other? Yes, I have. Yes, I have, Angela. Actually, I have. I have. And in fact, I think that we saw that. Oh, Shelley, you're leaving me. You're ditching me for Alfred Hitchcock? Really? I might ditch me for Alfred Hitchcock, too. I love Alfred Hitchcock. Dial M for Murder is one of my favorite movies, Shelley. One of my favorites. Love it. You have a great time tonight. All right, you can catch the rest on YouTube when I upload it later. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I have, Angela asked the question about family fighting, things like. I think we just experienced that recently with the Mandy Stokes disappearance, where her mother, Deborah Murray, was on, a woman that I've gotten to know very well. I love Deborah, and there's a situation where her daughter's missing and her son Aaron could be a suspect. And the truth is, other people in Deborah's family, even some of her other children, kind of want her to just let it go. Maybe one or two of them have been helpful and the rest are maybe not as helpful. Those things happen, and every family handles it differently. I can tell you that I know the perception is that between myself and Emily and other people who help get guests, we get a lot of guests. We get a lot of rejections too. People who don't want to talk. That happens quite a bit. Don't talk about it a lot, and I'd never mention any names, but a lot of people don't want to go on the record and don't want to go on a program because it is going to ruffle feathers with other parts of their family, so they don't do it. So Angela, if you're watching here, yes, the answer, it's absolutely true that encountered family, friends fighting about when, where somebody went missing. Yes. And hostile to each other. Absolutely. And I can tell you that there are disappearances that I've covered that have split families apart. So, yeah. Jill asked me thoughts about parental abduction and Unfound. It's a tough one, Jill. That's the tough thing about covering cases of children who are very young. In that there is some fact out there, little stat, that a large majority of children who disappear, and when I say children, let's say under teenager age, maybe 12 and under, the belief is that a parent made that child disappear. So it makes covering those kinds of disappearances very difficult because you can't talk to a parent because they could be a suspect. So, and yes, we've covered a couple young girls who disappeared. Debbie Lowe is one that comes to mind. Danielle Bell, of course, was only 14 when she disappeared. But when we start getting down to like 10 years old, 8 years old, kids that probably wouldn't run away because maybe they wouldn't even understand maybe what run away means. Those cases are difficult to cover because in a large part of the time, at least easily over 50% of the time, a parent is involved. And the case is still unsolved, so you don't know who to trust. You just don't. So, and I don't like putting people on my program who I think might have had something to do with the disappearance. So, that's why if you're looking at cases that Unfound has covered, in the last year and a half, we haven't done any really young children. That's one of the reasons. But Jill, that's a great question as well. Man, some great questions. You guys are so smart. Just fantastic questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. The serial bomber. Let's cover that real fast. His name, they caught him. I guess he killed himself when he thought he was going to get caught. Mark Anthony Condit, Conditt, 2 T's at the end. Seems to me he was very sloppy. Seems like they caught him fairly quickly. The big mistake he made was walking into that FedEx building and getting him on, himself on video. That was a big mistake on his part if he didn't want to get caught. What's interesting to me about it is that his actual daytime job was in shipping and receiving at some tech company. I do not believe that that is a coincidence. I'm going to guess, once again, just throwing this out there, that maybe he was passed over for a promotion, or maybe he wanted to try to get it, maybe, interview with FedEx and they rejected him, or some other shipping company and they rejected him, and he was ticked off about it. Because so far to this point, it doesn't seem to me that, he was lost his mind. I don't think he was crazy. I guess he had a blog where he was making some political statements, but that's what everybody does these days. I'm guessing he was some kind of disgruntled. He's certainly not like the Unabomber. This is a different type of case. This feels like some sort of revenge, getting back at somebody or someone or a company or a profession that wronged him. I don't. Once again, I just say that because I don't think it's a coincidence that he was involved in shipping and then he starts putting these packages together and blowing people up and actually killing a couple people. So I think we'll eventually find out. This is somewhat like the Las Vegas. It's clear to me, at least to me, and I don't believe in conspiracies, as most of you know, that guy did that on his own. It's clear to me that I think that, he lost a lot of money and maybe he was getting a little unstable because of it. And he wanted to go out in a blaze of glory. I think he knew once he started shooting those people from Mandalay Bay that he wasn't going to get out of that hotel alive. So that's what he wanted to do. I think he was a glory hound. He was, very arrogant and everything else. And that's where that kind of mentality takes people. Although I don't think we're ever going to see anything in writing or anything. Actually said that was that guy's personality type. With this guy, it does feel like some sort of revenge for something. So I'll just put that out there. Of course, he hadn't been caught or yesterday or whenever it was. Then we might have a little bit more to talk about. But the end that he was caught, that was that. I do need to mention very quickly before we get into the piece for that the next TribLive.com article is going to be coming out. I'm not sure if it's going to be this Sunday or next Sunday, frankly, right at this second. But it's going to be the disappearance of Terry Slaugenhaupt. Her last name is Slaugenhoupt. I was able to get in contact with her mother, Charlotte, who still lives here in the Pittsburgh area. And the writer I've been working with, Steven, he went up to talk to her today. He said he was going to. I haven't talked to him today. But this happened in 1991. She was living, had a roommate, and she came back. Terry came back from a date. and then she was going to walk down to the corner store from cigarettes that night. Never came back. I think she had a couple guys in her orbit that maybe, wanted to, maybe even the guy who she went out with that night maybe wanted a little bit more from her than she was willing to give. Let's just put it that way. And that's my guess in it. But Stephen is the one who does those articles. But that'll be coming out this Sunday or next Sunday. So what it would be, March 25th or April 1st. And it was really good that I was able to find Charlotte. Facebook, of course, helped me to do that. Where can you read the article? It'll be triblive.com, and I will surely be linking to it, Shani, in the group, on the page, on Facebook, or on Twitter, everywhere else. So you'll be able to find it when it comes out. But that's a case you can find it on Amos. It's a Amos case. It's a Charlie Project case. So I would urge you, to go check that out in the meantime. But it's going to be at triblive.com this Sunday or next Sunday. It's triblive.com. That's the media company in Pittsburgh that I've been working with since December. And they carry Unfound on their site. And I deeply appreciate them doing it. I think it's been good for them. And it's certainly been good for Unfound. I love working with them. Beth says, love your show. Keep up the good work. That's right, Beth. That's very kind. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. So that's Terry Slogenhopt. Disappeared Highland Park, which is a part of Pittsburgh, back in 1991. That brings us to the case for this week. It's a case that is not on charlieproject.org. That's not to make fun of my good friend Megan Good. But it's not on there, and hopefully Megan can make that happen, and I'll have to talk to her about that if she doesn't hear this first. The episode is called Reversal of Fortune, and it's called that because Donald Erwin, he disappeared in Missouri December 29th, 2013, just a few days after Christmas. He had been he was in the Navy, and led a really good life, had done very well for himself. But then he was 59 when he disappeared. But he started having some health issues in his 40s, had a hip replacement, got it replaced again. And then because of bad circulation, he had to have the leg amputated. And so he lost his job because of that. And he and his family were living in Atlanta, Georgia, doing very well. They had to move back to Missouri. And kind of things, I think, spun a little out of control. Kind of a downward spiral for both him and his family because of this. And the interview for this episode is with his sister Yvonne, who is in the group. Maybe you saw me introduce her into the group. I think it was yesterday, the day before. And, he had a very bad reversal of fortune. And, although it happened over a period of time, you look back at it now, it seems like it happened very quickly, at least in the conversations that I had with Yvonne. But very much like the Terry Slogenhopt case, where she went out for cigarettes and never came back, this is the same thing with Donald. He would go out every morning, get in his car, like 6 in the morning, go down to the corner store to get cigarettes there in this small town, Camdenton, Missouri. Well, he went out, allegedly, and never came back. So, and I was... this is another case that Emily was able to find his sister, and I've gotten to know Yvonne fairly well. But there are some peculiar things that you're going to be asked to think about for this case. If they are to be believed. Once again, anything that my guests say or I say, you could choose to believe all of it, none of it. And you're going to process the information. All I'm trying to do is get to the truth as well as I can. You are the ones who make the ultimate decisions. If these things are to be believed, one of the peculiar things is that not long before he disappeared, there was somebody posing as his brother, as Donald's brother, that went to a neighbor that said that Donald was suffering from depression. Well, Donald did have a couple brothers, but they never did that. but somebody was going through that neighborhood posing as Donald's brother. Another thing, he was financing a car, and it had one of those GPS trackers on it that they now use. If somebody's financing a car, they put a GPS on it in case the payment's not made, that they can ping and maybe shut the car off if somebody doesn't make their payments. Well, very strangely enough, on Christmas Day, 4 days before that, that GPS pinged in another town near where Donald lived. Now, the funny thing is that Donald, at least to his sister's knowledge, wasn't in that town that day, but his car was. And why would that GPS, there's only one reason that that GPS would go off, is if somebody was trying to disconnect it. So we talk about that a little bit. That happened just days before he disappeared. And there are some other things that we're going to talk about in the episode. So you also should know that this may be another case where the black market in opiates happening, oxycodone and the rest of them, may have played a factor in his disappearance. So these are the kind of cases that I think Unfound exists for. Because if you look up Donald Erwin, for example, on NamUs, it's a very short paragraph. It's like this: he went out for cigarettes and never came back. All of this information that we're going to talk about, that we already did talk about between myself and Yvonne, is new. It's not in the public sphere anywhere right now. And this is the reason that Unfound was created, because in a lot of these cases, once you start digging into them, you find out that there is so much information other than what's already in public. This is why I like to talk to people like parents, brothers, sisters, because they are usually the people who know the most, and they're honest. They want their loved one found, so they're going to put forth as much information, honest information, as possible. This is one of those cases where if you go find it anywhere, the paragraph is about this big, and there's going to be a lot of these things you aren't going to find anywhere that could lead us in a few different directions regarding the disappearance of Donald Erwin, which happened in Camden, Missouri, in December 29th, 2013. And I deeply appreciate Yvonne for appearing on the program. So that's the case for this week. So we're almost to the hour mark. So what did we do? I talked about why I'm back here in Pennsylvania. Told you about the passing of my biological mother, Suzanne Joyce, is her last name. My brothers and my sister, their mother. You should know my biological father, John. He passed away back in 2002 from cancer. So that's why I'm up here in Pennsylvania. Drove up here overnight. Probably going to be here for about a week. But the show's going to go on. We're going to have an episode this Friday. We're going to have one next Friday. We talked about Shopify. We talked about the shirts. Of course, I'm wearing a shirt here tonight. We talked about Patreon and PayPal and how much those things help with the program. And, if you like seeing these guests get their shirts and everything, it's because of the Patreon and PayPal and the sellers of shirts of people like yourself that allow that to happen. And I appreciate it. We talked about volumes 1 and 2, slowly working on volume 3, although being up here is going to put that a little on the back burner. We did a little bit of news. We talked about the Disney worker, Michael Shaver. We talked about the serial bomber. We talked about Terry Sloganhoff, TribLive.com. I took some of your questions, some great questions from Brian, from Jill, from Melinda, from Angela. So, great questions. Some very interesting new questions that I haven't gotten before. And then we talked about this week's case, the disappearance of Donald Erwin, December 29th in Camdenton, Missouri. The title of it is called Reversal of Fortune. Shaney, where can I buy a book that's signed? Shaney, you can contact me personally here on Messenger, and I can make that happen for you. I'd love to do that for you. You contact me, we'll work something out. Dee Dee, thank you. I will be passing along all of the sentiments to my brothers and sister as soon as I see them. I'll tell them all the listeners of Unfound are thinking, and that we have a lot of Unfound, as you know, has a lot of listeners. So there's a lot of sentiments out there, a lot of sympathy and condolences. I deeply appreciate it. And so we covered the disappearance of Donald Erwin. So we've been doing it for about an hour. Once again, I'm going to go. I'm very tired. I don't know if I seem tired, but I am. I'm going to sleep very well tonight. But this is my favorite time of the week, talking back and forth with you, us exchanging ideas, me answering your questions. And don't forget the newsletter. If you didn't get the newsletter last week, you can email me there. I'll put you on the list. And Beth, if you'd like a book signed, once again, contact me personally. I can make that happen for you. But I'm going to go now. Once again, anybody wants to contact me personally, everybody who's ever contacted me knows I'm very easy to reach. I get back to people very quickly, because I believe that's my job as host of this program, to be, very sensitive to your questions and messages. So I'm going to go. I hope you all have a great night. Stay warm if you're up here in the north. And if you're in the south, like in Florida, where it's still warm, don't rub it in too bad. Good night, everyone. I enjoy this every week. Thank you. And that is the end of Unfound Live on Facebook. See ya.